All right, testing. Great, audio works. I'm just gonna get everything set up here real quick. I need to get the chat window up. And then, cool, today, I wasn't planning on streaming, but I wound up getting up a little bit early this morning and got most of my work out of the way. So what I want to do today is some post Ludum Dare cleanup on the game. I noticed some pretty annoying bugs last night as I went through and sort of finished everything up. So I want to make sure that I sort of take care of it. So I'm just go through this to-do list and see what I need to do. I've added sound effects, I added music, I added power-ups. I published the game and I set up the website. I also added in the player fall and jump animations, and basically I completed pretty much most of my task list for what I wanted to do from Ludum Dare. What I want to do today though is, let's see here, where jump and shoot man, LD40. I'm going to delete this, move to trash, put this here, and copy this over, and then this will be the last sort of version of this workspace. So, all right, if you're just tuning in, what you should know is that let's see here, Twitter. Jesse Freeman. Oh, what we should do. Oh, I don't know if this is going to break everything. I'm going to try to change the resolution. Let's see if I break everything. Bear with me while I get this sorted out. What I wanted to do was go back down to the lower resolution. I think I'm at too high of a resolution here. So let's go to larger. Oh my God, it's so big. All right, cool. So now it'll just be a little bit easier for you guys at home to sort of see what I'm doing. When I was doing Ludum Dare, it's like I had so much going on that I couldn't deal with this tiny little resolution. All right, so all I was gonna say is if you go to my Twitter page, you can basically play. And what we should do is we should play. Let's do a warm-up real quick. I'm going to go and I'm going to play the two games and rate them. I'm going to do the two games for the people that already left feedback. So let's see here. Open link in a new tab and open link in a new tab. The shooting feels nice. As a fan of Mega Man, I really enjoyed this. Reminded me a bit of Zover. My only complaint was that I restarted the game after dying and fell right back. Cool. Oh, I need to log in. I don't remember what my login is. There we go. Save your passwords. No, thank you. All right, so let's go and play these guys' games. And we'll just warm up. We'll let a few people come into the stream, and then let's take a look at what they're doing. Sorry about the volume. I don't have volume. Let's see here. My cowboys use the theme by way of linear story X dynamically affecting elements. It also uses the theme as Vampire X Sausage. All right. Play Joe. I like the graphics. I'll post info about the game late here. No Mac version. Probably after launch. There I have a Mac version. All right, there's no Mac version, so I can't play the game. Looks good. All right. All right, can't play that. Let's try this game. Let's see, 41. All right, cook while riding your perpetually hungry hippogriff on the death road to McGricker Donald's. All right, is there a Trello private play on itch.io? Let's play it on itch. I'm gonna mute it. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do this another time. I'm gonna do this when I can actually like really get everything set up, because I can't even hear what's going on. So I'll come back and play these games. All right. So my plan for today is to go through, and I have one really critical bug that I want to fix in the game, and one little modification I need to make because it's not very clear to people how to play. So you are allowed to make some like minor changes post Ludum Dare. My plan is to, I'm gonna see if I can get this thing fixed. I also just want to go through and clean up the code. Oh, why is it so big? That's a problem. Oh no, I have to find the, huh. All right, this is gonna stink. I need to come up with a way of, you know what we should do? We should file this as a bug. Actually, there was a few bugs that I wanted to do, so GitHub Pixel Vision 8. We'll start with that. Let me get some music going, and we'll get this stream sort of on its way. What do I want to listen to today? My daily mix. All right, so there's a bunch of little bugs that I found. Let's do this. New issue. Reset the resolution when loading. Need a way to reset the custom screen scale when loading up in case something goes wrong. So I'll just take a screenshot of this real quick, and then where did I save that screenshot to? Why is it not taking a screenshot? Did I forget how to take a screenshot? There we go. All right, so where is this? Oh my God, this resolution is terrible. All right, so we'll set this to a bug, and all right, submit this. Also, it looks like I'm late on my next release. I'm gonna set this release to the second week in May. I don't have time to do these like 2-week releases. There's some other bugs. Oh, what I wanted to do here was reset copy, and now go to folder here. Let's open this with text edit, and we'll set the scale to 4. All right, so that should fix that. Let's go to Documents, Projects, Game Creator Pro. Let's see the booting. Whoa, why didn't that save that? I have a feeling that when I quit, it automatically saved the BIOS with its current volumes. Set the scale to 4. Close this out, and let's create a new window and open up the game creator. Projects. There we go. All right, so so the game creator works. Let me just make sure that it's still mute. Good. And if we hit play, right, it's at the wrong path. I just need to get the path to this workspace. Service, new terminal window, print working directory. And let's paste this path and save it. And now if we rerun this, we should have our jump and shoot man. The game came out pretty good. I fixed some of the animations. I gotta talk to Andrew. I don't really like this one. I don't like this run. It feels a little weird. But now you run out of energy. I do have some places that'll randomly spawn energy, but it's very rare. And what I wanted to figure out is there's a place where eventually there's like a bug where collision stops working really well. All right, so let's do this. We need to add instruction message when starting a game, and then we need to fix or clean up spawner remove logic. All right, so I think those are the two things that I want to do today, and also we're just going to sort of reorganize the code. I can close this out. There was another bug that I wanted to document. Let's get this started. Oops. File PV8 bugs. All right, so what I noticed was there was another bug where if I come in here and I try to create sound, if I, like here, if I reset this sound, you'll see I could save. If I go into config and I come back, nothing I do saves. So let's file this as a bug too. Music, editor, save, button, breaks. So the save button breaks after going into the config menu. I thought I changed that date. And let's go here into the workspace, screenshots, and we'll just file this screenshot. Hopefully Photoshop will run a little faster now at this resolution. So I need to just change the mic. All right, so, oh yeah, wow. Photoshop's actually pretty fast now. Amazing how that works. Wonder why I didn't like that other resolution. So, all right. Just out of curiosity, calculator. 1080 multiplied by 2 should be 20. I don't know. It was a strange resolution I was working at. All right, so here's the bug. Save button breaks after going into config menu. I feel like there was one other issue. Yeah, here we go. Clear tile map cache. Tile map cache isn't redrawn when a tile is set as -1 to sprite ID -1. You need to make sure that any changes to a tile are automatically cleared in the tile map cache. All right, so bug milestone. Basically, what was happening was when I was generating out the levels, it was the background wasn't clearing correctly, and so it would start corrupting the background. And what I wound up having to do was having to draw a clear. Actually, we should just edit this here. Edit. Use jump in shoot and demo to test this is fixed. Remove the draw rect in the map generator before clearing a tile to see changes. All right. So that'll fix that bug. I think those were, honestly, like those were the only two bugs that I really saw while working on Pixel Vision 8. I think for the most part, it was a pretty good success. So, all right. Let's close this out and let's take a look now at how we can clean up this game. So there are two things I just need to do. The first is pretty easy. When we start the game and we create the player, I feel like I clear. Let's see here. Where do we start? Display message. Press A to start, right? Here we clear the message. So what we're going to do is display message press X to jump and C to shoot. So that was the one thing that I missed yesterday. Basically, just press X and C to shoot. Does that look right? And C to shoot. Let's make that one space, and then that should center it. All right, so and then we're going to set the time to 3 seconds. So at least now you'll have a little bit of a message as to what to do. I did write in the instructions, but nobody ever reads the instructions. All right, so that was one little tiny fix that I just needed to do. But the bigger one is I got to figure out how to get this, this collision manager stuff working correctly. So what I got to figure out is that there are what I'm thinking is that I'm thinking spawn entity. remove entity. Call entity on remove. Table remove. All right, there's two ways that we can handle this problem. The basic problem is this. There are three main systems in the game that manage entities. There's the collision, the physics, and the spawner. And what happens is that when an entity gets removed, the system gets out of sync and everything starts screwing up. So what I need to do is come up with a cleaner way of managing a master list of entities. So what I was thinking of doing was that there would be a global list of entities, and when we do collision, it would basically, we would say like, hey, go through each of these entities and test for collision against something else. And I think I can do some conditional stuff, like just see like, hey, are you a collision object? Do you have a collision attached? The problem is, right, like if I manage separate lists, when I remove something from one list, it's going to remove it from the, all the lists are going to get out of sync. The other thing is whether I have a, the other way is that each of the entities keep track of their own logic. And what I was kind of thinking was like, I could have like the player search, do a collision check for everything and see if it hits a certain type. And for physics, it could run its own physics calculations and then remove the need for it to do it itself. I think that's sort of the approach that I want to do. So add physics entity, update physics entity, update physics, and remove. So what I'm thinking of is right here, I'm going to break out this here and call this update physics. Right? We would go all the way down to everything goes down to here. So we're going to call this function update entity physics time delta. And we'll do target, or we'll just call this entity. So the idea is that now I've broken this out, I'm going to get rid of this stuff. We don't need this. I'm going to get rid of all this extra stuff here. And basically, if it's not code right now, I'm just going to ignore it. So the idea is if any physics removed equals true, then let's do this. We're going to get rid of this. And now what I just want to make sure is that I'm not calling remove. I'm not calling remove physics here. Okay, perfect. So add figure physics. I'm going to rename this to configure physics entity, and then we'll do update entity physics. So now let's just stop this for a second. Oh, what we need to do is update entity physics let's pull this out and call this here. So now nothing should break in the game. And in fact, what we're going to do is let's just set this up so we can test it out really well. We're going to set this to just be the hard head guy. We'll set his odds to 100%, and we'll only spawn one of these guys. So what we want to do is, as we're testing this out, we just want to make sure that we don't break the physics for both this stuff, so like I just did here. Code physics 57. 57. What? I wonder if this was a bug where if it was removed, if entity removed equals true, then end return. Only update entities that are active. Let's see what else I broke here. 62. Why is this now? Gravity time delta. Oh yeah, here we go. I didn't pass in time delta. Time delta. There we go. So now the player should still work and that guy should jump. And what I want to do is I want to lock this to just be the first template. Copy templates, math random 1. All right, so now we'll just get the first template or level template, and we'll have our guy. All right, so that's looking good. He's able to jump and he doesn't fall through the floor. So now, let's move this over here somewhere. We can get rid of the code message. We can get rid of the score. We'll leave collision. The bullet stuff, we don't need to touch. All the bullet counter does, all the bullet thing does is it just, it allows you to add a counter to it, and it takes care of the movement. So that's good. Code entities, we don't need to change anything here. So all we need to do is we're going to focus on these three things. We have code collision. Right, we're gonna focus on our I'm gonna move the spawner here because the spawner is gonna be important. We're gonna focus on our physics, our collision, and this will move over here. Sorry, I'm just trying to organize myself. Code spawner. What is this? All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to, oh, it's funny, I did need the entities. Whoops. I want to get rid of draw rect, update entities. All right, I'm gonna call update entities at the very end here. So here we're gonna call update entities, and what we're gonna do is right, we'll deal with that later. Let's update. Well, updating collision and physics are all part of this. Update this, and we're gonna get rid of this entity thing. The player health, then kill the player. Okay, perfect. So what we need to do now is we're gonna get rid of this update physics. And now the player won't fall, that guy won't fall, and nothing is going to really work. Instead, what we want to do is when we so we can do one of two things. I don't want to get into I was going to write some weird sort of inheritance thing, but what I think I just want to do is when we create the player, let me see, when I create this player, I'm manually adding it to the collision entity, but let's do this. In the entity, when we create the player, we add a physics entity. We're going to add a thing here called data.update time delta end and what we want to do is we're going to call sleep. I'm tired. I should have probably slept. Update entity physics. We'll pass in data and time delta. Lua 48. All right. Data update equals function. All right. So we're going to create a update method here, and we're going to call this update. And now you'll see the player now is managing its own physics, and we don't need to worry about anything else. So now we're going to do the same thing for the hardhead guy, and he actually has an update. So what we'll do is we're just going to call this. After we change all of the values, we're going to call update entity physics, and we're going to make sure that this guy is play sound. Configure hardhead. Why is he not added to the on remove add physics entity? All right, so then he's added to the physics as well. So now our guy should work. He's just running really slow. Yeah, all right, get rid of this. What we need to do is this action delay thing is too slow because it's just testing. It's its basic AI to see if it'll jump. There we go. All right. So now the first thing that we've just fixed is in our physics system, we can now just remove physics entities and total physics entities. We don't need this. And we're going to leave this. We're going to remove the table. We can remove this and this. And all we're going to do is where we call add physics, we're just going to call this configure physics entity. So now, when we create our guys, we're going to call configure physics entity, and we're going to configure the physics entity. Then we can get rid of this and get rid of this. And we should be good to go now. So now the physics engine is very basic. What we're going to do is what I was trying to think of is whether we. Oh, I need to switch. I think I need to fix the label. The category now is game dev. I don't really understand with like the new game development. All right, so what I want to do is trying to figure out if there are things that I need to update here, but I don't really think I need to worry about that. Are we using map size, test position, bounds? We're not using bounds, so remove it, flag, kill ID, solid ID. Great. All right. So, all right, this is all good to go. I'm not going to clean the code up. All I'm trying to do is I'm trying to fix this one, these little bugs inside of. I'm just trying to fix these bugs. These like what I'm considering a critical bug in the game, where collision sort of screws up, and then eventually the player gets out of sync and he winds up just randomly dying, and you can't stop it. Clean up spawner remove logic. And we filed the PV8 bugs. Perfect. All right, so physics is good. Next is the collision. So again, we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pull this out. And we're going to create a method called function update collision entity target time delta, and if target remove, we're just going to do return. We'll call end here, and now we can bring all this back and delete. All right, so now this is the basic collision detection logic. If I was to run this now, there won't be any collision or nothing will work. 42. Code entities, line 42. Whoops, hold on. I didn't save that. Code physics 10. Code physics 10. Total physics entities, right. We don't need this, and we don't need this ID. In fact, are we using this PID anywhere else? Nope, nowhere. All right, so now if we play the game, there are no collisions. So what we need to do is redo this so that we'll start here. We're going to do with our player. Let's remove this. I want to pull out this, and we'll just start with the player first. I'm going to move a lot more of the logic over into the player. So here we're going to configure this, we're going to add collisions to it. And on update, we're going to call update, and we'll call this data.time delta. So now our game object is just going to automatically update itself, and they're just going to manage their own testing for physics and collisions instead of having some big global system. Like when building something like modular like this, the issue is either you have like one big global list and it's always checking for everything, or you make it more distributed where each thing only checks for what it needs. So in this case here, we're just gonna do that. In fact, I might actually clean up this. What I'm actually thinking is of cleaning up the. Ooh. There's something I needed to see here. Add collision. Update collision target A. Oh yeah, we need a target A. Update collision entity target A. Perfect. All right, that'll work. And what I could do is I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to remove these two things, and we can remove this. So basically what we could do now, what we do now is we have a very simplified way of creating the properties we need for doing the collision detection. And then here, what we're going to do is loop through all of the entities. Right, so we pulled total entities, which is a global that we've made here. Okay, so save that, and let's rerun this and see if we can get the player to not break. 264, we just need to remove the update in the main code. 264. Bar? Lua code 264. All right, I'm at 164. 264. All right, remove this. And now code collision 8. Add collision entity. Whoops. Player. Data. Oh, right. This should just be data. All right. So as you can see, when I walk through the player, when the player jumps through the enemy, it's taking collision data. So this is now working. All we need to do is do this for everything else. So configure collision entity. I might reverse that, so it'll just say configure entity collision. But for right now, I don't feel like dealing with that. Add collision, replace all. All right, so let's find the other area here, which should be the bullet. And then all we need to do now is data.update equals function time delta. All we need to do now is call update collision entity, or actually just call, yeah, update collision entity. And here what we're going to do is target, we're going to do data and time delta. So now the bullet should be able to collide with the bad guy, but he's not colliding. All right, we'll look into that in a minute. The reason is whoops. What we want to do is we need to look at the code bullets. We create a update here. And what we just want to make sure is that we want to make sure that we update the collision for any types of bullets. So we can delete this because the update logic is automatically added by the bullet spawner. And what I just want to make sure is that at the end of this, if we create the bullet, we automatically configure it. So, so if bullet remove equals true, then n return. So we won't do anything to the bullet if it's flagged as being removed. On collision equals on bullet collision, which is here, perfect. We should do function on bullet update equals time delta. And I'm just going to copy all this out. On bullet update. See, I already saw an error here. No, this is fine. Okay. It's just in order to make this stuff cleaner, we're going to we'll just break out these methods into their own little thing. So what's next? On bullet update. Let's see if I broke anything. Yeah, all right. Code collision 8. Code collision 8. Attempt to index a nil value. So is target nil? What I just want to look for is collision entity. So let's remove this and remove this real quick from the bullet and just see if we get the bullet working again. Data collision entity 8. All right, so somewhere along the line, oh, I did this in the player. Dar? I can't deal with this resolution. It's so small. Code, create bullet, configure collision entity. And let's just remove the collision logic right now and just get the bullet working again. Code bullet 45. On bullet update. I see what it's doing. We'll just do function. And I think there's like a way to... Hold on a second. Lua. Lambda function arguments. Function source load map. I feel like there's a way to call a method and pass it in. Source filtering. Placeholders. Alright, I see why I did this here. I'm gonna put this back as a lambda in here because it needs to on collision. No. On update. What did I just do? There we go, I see. On update. There we go. Okay. I just need to do this because this is going to get called, but I need the reference to the bullet itself, which is set up here when we create the logic. All right. Blah. All right, so bullets are working again. The next step that we want to do is register the bullet with, we want to register the bullet. Here we go. This is the problem. Sometimes, I don't know. I mean, well, one, I'm tired. And two, sometimes it helps to, when you're running into like little errors like this, is there's no compiler checking, is to just go like step by step and undo what you did until you see where the typo is. Like in this case, you already see that this is bullet, and we should be good to go. All right, cool. So now the bullets are working again. So this is good, and I don't think that there's any other place that we actually use this collision logic. It's basically just the player and the bullet. Because if I come in here to the tile map and I create a I create this hidden turret thing. That stinks. All right, so configure collision entity player. What we want to do is IDX speed flip. Collision type. All right, what was happening was that the cannon's bullet was colliding with itself because it's set to a different tag. So what I need to figure out is wherever I call new bullet spike ball, collision type. I had to change this because there's a conflict here, but we'll do new bullet. So any local bullet equals new bullet. If bullet does not equal nil, then n we'll play the sound, and what we'll do is we're going to change the bullet type to enemy bullet. I have a feeling that unless we create new bullet, delay, bullet. I'm gonna get rid of this flip X and we'll do a limit. We'll do limit and we'll do type. Collision flag. So that when we come down here and we create this bullet, we'll pass in the collision flag. And now we just need to make sure that wherever we call new player, so this is going to be the limit is going to be 4, and this is an enemy bullet. So there can only be 4 of these on screen at one time. And we'll play the sound. So the next thing we need to figure out is where else are we calling new bullet? It would be here for the player. And when we call new player, we're just going to do the limit's going to be 4 at a time, and we're going to call this player so that it doesn't collide with the player itself. All right, so that's still screwing up. I wonder why that bullet is screwing up. All right, we'll look at that one later. What I'm more concerned with is just making sure that right now the basic bullet stuff works, and I want to move on to clean up the collision, and we can always fix that bug later. I have to isolate that one. Bullet counter. Right, so this limits the number of bullets that are shot, decrease the bullet counter, and on bullet collision. So let's just make sure that when a bullet is removed, new bullet, bullet counter, bullet, on remove, bullet traveled, distance, decrease, bullet counter, and flag it for remove. And then here, on a bullet collision, we're going to decrease the counter. And all right, so those are the two places where that should work. I think I can actually, I think we could do something like this, like an on remove for a bullet. Code entities, configure entity hidden turret, entity bullet. What we can do is, oh, that's actually a much better way of doing it. Let me get rid of this play sound thing. And get rid of this. When we create the spike ball, we'll just play the sound then. There we go. I was playing the sound twice. So that should fix some of this. There's some like weird performance issues too I was dealing with sound. On bullet collision. So let's see, we get shooting works, we get basic collision stuff working. Let's go into now cleaning up the remove logic. So what I want to do is remove entity. There's a loop here for going through and drawing entities, removing these guys, and this is what I want to try to do. When we go to spawn entity, remove entity, update entities, we're going to create a list of things to remove, And then at the end, we're going to just do some cleanup. And I just have to add this back in. So the first thing we do is we look to see if the entity needs to be removed. We'll put this back here. Else, all right, so now there's only one system that adds and removes entities. The entities are responsible for calling their own physics and collision logic. And the entity system, which is called the spawner, will basically handle update, draw, and removing entities as required. So we'll see if this works, because bullets keep showing up, enemies keep showing up, and we're not like randomly dying. Now, let's go back to the map buffer here, and I'm going to add in all these guys. And we'll set this to 2. Let's just see what happens when we got like a lot of guys on the screen. What was happening originally was that, like, if I would... Yep, I just saw it happen. I would shoot one guy, and then another would disappear. Yeah, like it just shot and it didn't... Alright. So now we gotta come back here, and we have to make sure that we are displaying the correct frames per second. Like, at no point am I seeing... Why would that happen? Alright, I did see that energy isn't now working. I'm still getting that same problem. This is tough. This is like a really complicated system. I was trying to build something that's like really reusable. Like, what I'd like to do is get it to the point where a lot of this stuff is just built into Pixel Vision 8. And if you want like basic physics, or, well, I don't know, physics is going to be tough. But if you wanted basic collision, that would sort of work, but I don't know. I have to really sit down and think through this. What I got to figure out more is, man, how do we find these bugs? This stuff where like I shoot and something like immediately disappears is like really complicated. Update physics. All right, let's start with let's just go piece by piece now through the stuff that I just noticed was broken. We're gonna start by doing an energy, and just make sure that this collision works. And we're gonna only spawn one of these guys. All right, so the energy collected. Wonder why it wasn't working earlier. So energy works. Health. Health works. Let's do multiple snakes and just see if they delete. Now, I don't know why both of those snakes are getting removed. I'm kind of curious as to whether... Alright, we gotta just go look at the snake now and see why that's getting destroyed. So, on remove any spike ball, code bullets, on bullet collision, on decreased bullet. All right, I'm gonna remove this. That's one thing I need to remove. All right, so let's look at the snake. We need to look at the snake and the drop random power up, configure. I was just gonna move this into the spawner. Yeah, maybe not. All right, on remove, what is this guy? This is the hard head. On remove, entity snake. So spawn a explosion, add a score, spawn entity. All right, so my thinking of what's happening is basically when we go to remove, I think what I should do is I should go back to having that the system that does a sweep after everything is done and then removes it instead of doing it all in one. Let's just add everything back to remove entities. Let's see if this fixes it. I think I'm just getting too aggressive with removing stuff. Nope, it just did it. Son of a... The only thing I can think of is that the in cases like that where there's two of them, it's not creating a separate entity for them. Like they're both the same, they're both referencing somewhere, like the same memory. So if you're just tuning in, I'm trying to fix some issues with my Ludum Dare game. You're allowed to do some critical fixes, and I noticed a bug last night where basically the whole collision system gets out of sync, and I'm not spending like a terrible amount of time trying to fix it. I don't want to like cheat in Ludum Dare. I'm just kind of curious to see what the fix is and how I can sort of simplify this. Now, table entities, total entities. What I want to see is all right, here's what we're going to do. I want to do one other thing. I want to slow down the game. So let's set this to 50. And I just want to see if maybe things are just running too fast. I'm not sure why slowing things down fixed this bug. Because now if I come back and do 100, it's still, it's consistent. Like, oh, it's not consistent, it's reproducible. Like right there, it just happened. So, all right. What I want to do is, let's do this. We're going to do print spawn ID. Let's just output what we're spawning. Now, I just want to make sure there's nowhere where I'm table insert entities. So the thing that's still the problem is that we're just blindly adding an entity and removing an entity based on its ID, or no, based on no ID. And I was thinking of going back and doing unique IDs so that every time we create something in the system, we're able to look them up and then remove them correctly. We are using, we do save out a UID here. The other thing I want to do is make sure that if we can't configure it, we don't build it. So let's do this. Let's try to get this to the point of where we can actually, we're referencing the UID of things. And we're going to do something like this. We're going to spawn a UID, and then when we kill the snake on remove, we're going to do print remove data UID. Right, so let's see if this works. Terminal, we'll just tail this file. If you're just tuning in, I'm doing some bug fixes. Spawn nil. Oh yeah, it's spawning nil, but it's it should be entity data.uid. I'm trying to figure out why my Ludum Dare game is breaking. There we go. Oh, it was right there. All right, so it looked like I need to add one more thing here. Let's see. What we're going to do is when has spawned, we're going to do print spawn complete. So I'm just going to go through piece by piece through the logic, and we're going to test first off. We need a marker for when the spawning is complete, so that we know when the next round of spawning is. And what we're looking for is to see that 2 unique objects are being spawned, and 2 unique objects are being destroyed. So when I shoot the first one, the second one gets destroyed. I just want to see what's triggering that. Then we'll go through the bullets, and we'll see the bullets, and we'll go piece by piece through this. So what I basically have to do now is, there we go, that was it. All right, so spawn is complete. So it spawned this, 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 and this, and only removed one thing. What we need to do is I need the ID. There we go. All right, so all right, our spawn has been completed. I created a bullet. We had an explosion, removed something. So we now have a bullet, a snake, and a snake, right? Spawn is now done. We have an explosion, and we're removing 15245802847. So we've removed this, but now all of a sudden the other the snake is being removed correctly. We're spawning the explosion, we're removing the snake, and then the second snake just disappears. So let's take a look at our remove logic. And what I want to do is remove list. Oh, let me see if I could do in Lua index of table. Lua index of array. Tutorial points, Lua array. Index. How do you index of an array? I hate Lua. Such an awful language. Like what I don't want to do is I don't want to have like a this like really broad sweep. If entities I remove equals table insert remove list, call remove entity. Table remove. Print remove entity ID. And what we're looking for is if entity does not equal nil, let's do entity ID dot entity UID. This is a tough one. I don't think that was it, but let's see here. Remove entity nil. Entity ID, entity UID. Why is this nil? So explosion doesn't save its own ID? That doesn't make any sense. Everything here should have a ID. If ID is nil. All right, I see here. All right, let's do ID equals, well, ID equals ID. Should be type, change type in collision to, I'm using type somewhere else, so I can't use type right now, but that's basically what it should be. Read your book on creating games in Impact.js. What are you using nowadays for engine? Welcome to the stream. I wrote my own little game engine called Pixel Vision 8, and this is the game creator. It's basically a fantasy game console, so it's like a self-contained game engine with its own tools and stuff. Right now, I'm just trying to debug my Ludum game. There we go. There was a hit. So let's take a look now at what just happened. So spawn complete, remove entity, remove entity. So, what are we doing here? Spawning an explosion, remove entity explosion, remove the bullet, remove 86344. 86344. All right, here we go. This is the root of the problem right now. Something has triggered to remove the other snake. So the bullet hit the snake. We had an explosion. Is the explosion killing the snake? All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna save this pattern out, and let's see if we can reproduce it again. So if you're just tuning in, I'm just debugging my Ludum game because I saw a pretty bad bug where the engine is deleting stuff before it should. There we go. All right, so now what we're looking for is remove, spawn complete, and now we should find the same pattern. Basically what's happening is we remove the bullet, remove entity bullet. We've removed two snakes. We spawn an explosion. And then remove entity explosion. So, why is this one bullet killing both of these snakes? So let's do this. Let's look at our bullet logic for on collision, remove, true. I have a feeling that print I have a feeling that the bullet isn't being removed before the next entity is updated, and it basically collides. Is the bug easy to reproduce? It seems to. It's not 100%. I can reproduce it. It's not consistent. But what I think is happening, what I've noticed is if I slow the engine down, it goes away. So what I'm left to believe is that I need to make sure that the bullet collides once, shuts itself off, and then on the next frame doesn't inadvertently collide. It seems to be any object that's too close to the next. So what we're going to do is we're going to do collision target A dot UID, target B UID. Oops, work emails are starting to come in. Let's just take a look at what. Let's see what's going on. All right, so that's the. This is my theory, is that we're going to see that this bullet's going to collide twice. So let's try to run this one more time and reproduce it. That was it right there. So spawn complete, collision, remove bullet entity, explosion, remove, spawn bullet, remove, explosion. Nope. It didn't collide again. So let's see here. So this bullet, which is 83161, 83161, collided with 18232. 18232. What's going on? So I know what's going on. I know 100% what's going on. This goes back to the problem that I thought it was from the whole time. Every time I loop through this and I remove the index, it lowers. Every time I loop this, it removes the. It changes the index of the array. That's the problem. So I got to come up with a faster way of removing these objects. Let's see here. Lua, remove multiple objects from a table. That's an interesting idea. Resetting the array to empty and repopulating it. I like that idea. Let's try this. Local old entities equals entities for old for entities. That's probably the best way to do it. For entities, then what we'll do is old table insert entities. Such a noob mistake on my part. This is exactly what I get for like not sleeping and just writing this game so quickly. What we're gonna do is if entity dot removed equals false, then so at the end of the update, we're going to do a sweep. We're going to go through the total entities. So, all right, we can do this one of two ways. We could, well, the first thing we need to do is get rid of this. That'll remove it, and then at the very end, we'll do another loop that'll just go through and take the old entities and... Actually, I did this backwards. What it should be is we loop through old entities I, and then entities, old entities I. Well, what we do is, okay, at the beginning of the spawn entity, this is our new update loop. Remove entity, great. Update entities. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new array that represents, we're going to take let's do this, active entities, right? We're going to get a total of the active entities, and then we're going to loop through this total. Now, as we loop through the total, if entity removed doesn't equal true, all right, so what we're going to do here is that else, and you're right, I didn't clear the entities, you're right. I'm going to take care of that right now. Local, no, it should just be entities equals new array. So here we're going to, at the end of this else, insert or table insert entity. Whoops. No, forget this. At the end here, we're going to say if entity dot remove equals true. Well, doesn't equal true. Table insert entity into entities. All right. I think that'll sort of work. The idea is going to be that we are Total entities. This needs to be outside of the for loop. Total entities equals entities. You know, if we're calling this every frame, it doesn't matter to do it here. All right. Draw entities. Actually, wait, I was trying to, it's, at the end of it, we're going to update the total so we know how many entities still exist. All right, so $5 says this blows up, but let's hope that it doesn't. All right, so we'll remove this. This should never be triggered. Removing an entity now. We would look for an entity. We'll remove it. We'll keep that in place. And all right, let's see. The one last thing I wanted to do in the code was remove in update. I remove the entities. We don't need this anymore. This is all now handled by update entities. All right, let's see if this works. Everything breaks. Code spawner 83. Code spawner 83. If entity health total. Do I clear the attempt to index a nil value entities? Oh yeah, right. This should only be. This should only call active entities, and there we go. Yep, thank you. Glad someone's paying attention. Bah! Code collision 47. So now code collision 47. Attempt to index a nil value. You know what? I think I'm going to let everything run and then. No, I don't know how to like this. This is a tough race condition. I'm trying to think if I should let everything run and then let it. The problem here is that on the code collision, the issue we're running into is that there's no entities now. Wonder if we could do this. What if we make active entities a new array? The total will be total entities like it was before. We'll reference the entities. And at the end, we'll just do a switch here. Total active entities. We don't need any of this. This will go about its business like it was before. Then at the very end, we will make entities equal active entities, which I need to active entities, local active entities equals this. All right, let's see if Lua will let me do this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm creating a list to keep track of all the entities that exist, which is similar to what I was doing before to remove them. But this way we're going to keep track of all the active entities, and when we're done, we're just going to set entities equal to the active entities. It's a local scoped variable, and then when it redoes the next update, there shouldn't be any garbage collecting associated with it, because there won't be any corruption. There we go. So the one thing I'm noticing is the explosion isn't happening, which is interesting. My take is, all right, so all right, that's one problem. All right, this isn't going to work. What happens is we're close. We're getting much closer. The problem now is that if an entity is added during this phase, it's now out of sync. So there's two ways that we can go about fixing this. We can either defer. I bet you this is the whole crux of the problem right now. Is when we have these, like, we have one entity that's creating another entity, and all of a sudden, it's like the whole thing gets out of balance. Because now what happens is it's going to update correctly, but any new entities that are added are now removed from the list. So what I want to do is I'm going to have a separate loop. There's just no way I can get around this. I'm trying to condense this into a single loop, right? So we could save on performance. But what's going to happen is at the end of the update, we're going to have to loop back through every single entity and clean it up. Now, what we could do is I could tie this into the draw method, because update gets called, then draw, and draw will loop through everything. If we want to save... If we want to sort of save, instead of having to run 3 loops, right? Like, what I don't want to keep doing is, there's all these like different loops, right? We're updating entities, we're drawing the entities, we're now trying to figure out which ones need to be removed on the frame. We are looking at collisions, so if one object collides, it now needs to go through and loop through all the collisions and update the collisions. So we need to basically... We need to do this at the end. Or what we do is, before we update this total, we can copy over any new entities. Let's try that real quick. This way, we don't have an extra loop, and it's only going to be a partial, like... There shouldn't be too many entities that are things. So let's try this. Local new count equals total entities well, it would just be entities minus total entities. The other thing is to buffer them. I think that's probably a smarter move. Here's what I'm thinking. Whenever we spawn a new entity, instead of immediately adding them to this table, we should add them to a new table so that they don't get lost. Like, what we want to do in reality is, like, when we loop through something, we want to look at that snapshot of the game at that particular moment. If we're creating new stuff and we're adding it into the snapshot, everything's going to get sort of out of sync, right? Because, like, let's say a player spawns a bullet, and then the bullet is looking for all these items, but then the item gets destroyed and spawns a other thing, and like it becomes a mess. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a local variable called entity temp entities, and we're going to leave it blank like this. And then what we'll do is we're going to create an entity, and on the next frame we're going to update it. So whenever we call spawn entity, we're going to pass this into the temp entities thing, right? And then I want to get rid of this total entities crap. Like these lists are small enough that I could just calculate this when I need to. So let's look at, well, let's crawl before we run. We're going to create our new entities, our active entities. The last thing we're going to do here is copy over any new entities. So we're going to look at our for temp entities, do active, we'll do table insert temp entities I insert this into active entities, because now anything that's created is going to be considered active, right? I don't think I would set something and be flagged as removed, because it would be created, then it'd be removed. Maybe the copy should be done before the update. That way everything gets one update. Yeah, I might move that up there too. What I was trying to do is get it queued up. The reason I was doing it at the bottom was to get it queued up for the next frame. So if you add stuff, that immediately gets... we'll take a look. Either way, it should work fine. Temp updates, temp entity E equals 0. Then we copy this over, and we're good to go. Now, I want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of everywhere we calculate this. Like, this is bad. Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this. We'll just loop to the entities. We'll get rid of this. I was like trying to be clever and draw entities. I was trying to be clever and do this so that it I pre-calculated the count, but because of that, that's also throwing everything out of sync. So like here, we need to go through entities, this total entities. Let's just do that. Nope, I meant entities. What are you doing? Fine, great. Physics, we don't use this at all. And, all right, that should do something. I don't know. Can't be any worse than it was before. Well, it's not spawning. Huh. It's not removing him either. Like I shoot him and watch, that guy gets destroyed and then he pops right through. Spotter. I mean, if we didn't do this, nothing would even show up. So at least we know that this is sort of working. Let's try moving this to the top. Copy that over to entities and then clear the temp entities. All right, well, that suggestion did help because now it's not going through. And then I feel like we got to do it at the end too. So we collect all the entities at the beginning and the end of the... Nope. Now why isn't... All right, here's what I'm going to do. I got to simplify this because this is becoming stupidly complex. Clean up spawner remove logic. Yeah, we're still working on that. I wonder if this in the for loop continues to increase the count. All right, let's forget this for a second. And let's just simply add this back to entities. All right, so we're adding them. It just doesn't look like we're adding any of the other entities. So add this, get rid of temp entities. Set this to that, and we're good to go. Now, what I want to do is print the copy. Active entities. What I wanted to see was when we're shooting stuff, if these are always in sync. Here we go. Collision, bullet. We have one extra entity here than we have here, and we have one extra entity here that we have here. So in that case, we need to if active entities does not equal entities, then end diff equals entities minus active entities. If diff is greater than 0, then I don't think I'm like saving anything here. Like, I think what we really need to do is when we do the draw, we do cleanup. Because why am I adding like all these, like every little extra loop or bit of logic adds more complexity to manage. And this is sort of where I'm biting myself in the ass, or putting my foot in my mouth. Maybe that's a better expression. Let's do this. We're going to loop through the entities. Perform cleanup before drawing. So what we're going to do here is if we, since we were already doing the test anyways, I'm going to put it back in here. Well, actually, no, it shouldn't go here. That's a different test. What we want to make sure is that if the entity remove equals false, add them to active entities. equals a new array. If this doesn't equal, wait, if this equals false, we're going to perform all this stuff. We're going to, so we're going to perform a cleanup before drawing. Well, actually, add entity to active list for next frame. Then we're going to see if it has data. We're going to draw it. And at the very end, we're going to set, let's get out of this loop. Entities equals active entities. When do you call remove entity? What happens in those that don't make the cut into the active entities? When you call remove entity, it just calls the child method. It was like removing from the table and updating the total, and that's what I think was putting everything out of sync. Well, it's working. Well, good news is that I'm not seeing like multiple guys like removed like I was before, but I'm no longer seeing the explosion, which leads me to believe that remove entity isn't being called anywhere, which is the problem. Son of a... That was the problem. I wasn't calling... It's fine. Else, remove entity I. So here, when we call remove entity, it will now call its remove logic, and we are good to go. But honestly, this is what it should be. I don't want to I don't want to have extra loops on top of these loops. So having like a cleanup, no, son of a, what the, come on, just work. I'm so tired and hungry, frustrated from programming this game for like 3 days straight. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Is it called in the logs? Yeah, let me look. That's a good call. Yeah, remove explosion. Why is the explosion getting removed? I wonder if that has something to do with the... I wonder if the explosion getting removed now has something to do with... let me see something real quick here. Code entities. I bet you the explosion is being removed by the collision detection. Configure entity explode. Type player. No, it shouldn't explode. What is removing the explosion? All right, one thing I want to see, let me do this. I want to do a quick test and just see the rest of the game and see what's going on when we just play through the game and see if there's any other little bugs that are popping up before I go try to fix this one. Because I might be introducing all kinds of bugs I have no clue are happening. All right. just want to keep like the telltale sign of that. Oh, that was it right there. I no longer can do collision. Nope. Maybe I was flickering and I just didn't notice it. All right. Why does that jump not register? When I die? All right, so when the player dies, the explosion gets called. Oh, I've ran out of my energy. See, right there, that jump didn't trigger. See, it just did the error. It's happening right now. All of a sudden, what is calling that? Spawn explosion. Son of a man. What is going on? Why is this? Oops, and I just deleted it. There's just something where this like gets out of sync, and once it's out of sync, look at that. That bug too, I've noticed, where it skipped a tile on the floor there. Do you delete the player in the draw HP? I don't know. I have to. I think. Well, I have to wrap this up anyways because I gotta move on my day. Right now, look. So right now he's not colliding with those other ones, and I bet you any moment now he's just gonna start. He's gonna die. Let's just let's see here. No, it's working now. All right, well, I think this is just basically what I got to start debugging. And I was hoping that this would be like a quick fix, but honestly, like the amount of time that I'm putting in, there we go. What got me? Remove collision, remove entity bullet, spike ball, collision, remove entity. All right. Well, I think this is just what it is. Like I'm gonna have to go through this piece by piece and just sort of now it's happening again. Remove player. Spawn explosion. Dust. Remove entity spike ball hidden turret. Spawn explosion. Dust explosion. I mean, what I'm just going to wind up having to do is just go through line by line and just rebuild the spawner and just make sure that I'm not like I just got to make sure that I'm not deleting stuff. Like wherever I call remove player, I just need to go through piece by piece and make sure that it's activated correctly. Because yeah, that's just what it's going to be. So all right, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Maybe what I'll do is for the rest of this week, I'll just keep streaming as I clean up this logic. I mean, I'm going to delete some of this other crap, this old stuff. Because what's good, like there's a lot of like little just getting a text from someone who's didn't answer. All right, so I definitely don't have the energy or the time right now to do that, but that's my plan. What I just want to take one quick look through is I can get rid of this. Yeah, I just need to rewrite this class, and that's not a big deal. This is a pretty small. What I was just double checking was like this is pretty small, and it probably wouldn't hurt to sort of clean it up. What I am liking though is that once I get these things sorted out, this is going to be pretty reusable. I'm going to have a very simple way of spawning entities. I'll have a very basic physics engine, which I'm probably going to do a little bit more. I'll probably add a little bit more and make it more robust. This little collision testing is pretty solid too. I'm going to remove all this, which we don't need. And the goal is to try to get this to the point of where this stuff, I have all these, maybe adding and deleting the entity entries could be done with functions, and those functions have a lock. Like if lock, yeah, I sort of had the lock, but you know, over time as I was hacking it, what was happening was I just probably added a bunch of hacks to override that, and it just needs to be rebuilt. It's not like I said, it's not a terribly complicated class. I'm not so worried about it. Rebuilding all this stuff from the ground up probably would be bad, and what I want to do is figure out a way to get this to. I want to turn this into like a little tutorial or a long tutorial that teaches you how to make games with pixel vision. That's the other thing I was saying. Like I have these art packs. I have 3 art packs that are platformers. And what I want to use is like this type of sort of endless runner engine to sort of test out the artwork. So like basically when you get an art pack, it'll just come with a bare bones endless runner, and the RPG one I'll come up with something separate too. But you know, it turned out to be a pretty good game, all things considered, and you know, we'll see how people rank it. I don't think I'm going to get very high. Lately, I haven't been doing very well in Ludum Dare. Well, I did fine. It was fun. I was like talking to my oldest last night because he was like rooting me on to finish the game, and I was telling him like I'd gotten 32nd place on one of my games, and he's like, "Oh, how out of how many?" And I'm like, "I don't know, like 4,000 people." And he's like, "Wow, it's good." And I was complaining that I was upset that my last game entry was only like 150th place. Again, out of like, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 people, and he's like, "Well, that's still really good, Dad." So, you know what? I'm too critical on myself. All right, cool. All right, thanks everyone for watching. I'll stream tomorrow, and we'll continue to clean up this code. So hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have something that's like really nice, reusable, and more importantly, is easy to turn into a tutorial, so that I can actually have some better documentation for the engine. So thanks for watching, and see you tomorrow.